D.R. Horton is being sued by a group of Florida home buyers, and they're being sued because, according to the lawsuit, D.R. Horton, America's largest home builder, and usually a lot of first-time home buyers go to D.R. Horton because across the country they're thought of as being very affordable typically. So they're alleging that they conceal the true cost of buying the home by omitting or making much lower some of the true cost of property taxes. And this is not unique just to D.R. Horton, even though D.R. Horton is named in this lawsuit. As a first-time home buyer, for you to understand how this could happen, how in this lawsuit they say that one plaintiff, Frankie Santiago, his payment went from $2,164 to $3,136 after a year. And you have to understand this as a first-time home buyer, especially if you're getting new construction. I'm Shaheedah Hill, getting you over the hill to home ownership and helping you confidently buy your first home. So let's talk about how this could work. So when you're buying a new construction home, and I always say that you need to get a loan estimate. And I don't know in this case how they were given the loan estimates because D.R. Horton has their own mortgage company. So typically when you're trying to get some of those incentives, the lower interest rate, them paying your closing costs, you have to go with their preferred lender, which is DHI Mortgage. So this lawsuit is suing both D.R. Horton and DHI Mortgage. So they're alleging that, and I can see how this could happen because it happened to one of my clients, and I'll tell you about that as well. When you are a buyer that's not putting a significant amount of money down, then most lenders are going to require you to pay your taxes, your property taxes, and your insurance with your monthly payment. So with your principal and interest payment, there also will be taxes and insurance. And when they're qualifying you for this loan, they are looking at all four of those components to see what your monthly payment is going to be and whether or not they feel that you can afford it. And that's what you're using also to say, okay, can I afford this payment with those four things? Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And this lawsuit is specifically, it says they concealed the true property tax costs. So when you're doing new construction, let's imagine there's a new construction development that you're interested in. The county or city that taxes that property, every year in most areas, you're going to pay property taxes. Now, when you're buying new construction, the person that owned that property before you bought it is typically the builder, in this case, D.R. Horton. When D.R. Horton is taxed on each of those lots in a subdivision, they're taxed on the land typically, unless a home has been on the market for a while, like over a year. They're going to be taxed on the land because there's no home there. And the taxes that you pay on land is much lower, significantly lower than it would be if there was a home on that property, because typically you pay a percentage of the lot's value. So when they are doing assessments on the value of land, it's much cheaper than it's going to be when there's a house on that property. So a D.R. Horton lot with no house on it, maybe, I'm just using an example, it may be valued at $30,000. But once you put a house on that property, especially a house that's selling for $300,000 or $400,000, now it's going to be taxed at the $400,000. The land plus the home, right? It's going to be taxed at a much higher value. And what they're alleging is initially, because they're allowed to do this in most states, when they're estimating your property taxes, they may use an estimate of the prior year. When you're buying resale homes, a lot of, closing attorneys and title companies, they don't know what the tax bill is going to be unless it's already come out. So they estimate what your taxes are going to be based on the previous owner. And this is where it gets tricky, not just for D.R. Horton, but for any new construction builder. So it's important that you as a buyer, even a first-time home buyer, has to be educated. A lot of first-time home buyers go into new construction communities as if they're going into a leasing office to rent an apartment. You're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. You need to educate yourself before you even step inside a new construction subdivision. So, if they're allowed, depending on the state, the city, the taxing authority, and the mortgage company or the on-site sales agents, a lot of them are allowed to use the previous year's estimate. So let's give another example. Say that the tax bill for that lot was $800. Then your estimate would include that $800. Even though, right, the builder knows and the mortgage company knows that once a house is there, your property taxes are going to be much higher than that. So you have to come in that you have to come into new construction or home buying with that awareness of, are they estimating my property taxes? Don't get excited when you see that low number. That should be a red flag to say, why is this number so low? And if you don't have, say everything is new in the subdivision and they don't have, what, the property is going to tax for, they can look around at other properties that are in the neighborhood or in surrounding neighborhoods to give you a better estimate, because most counties and cities, they have a set percentage and they'll multiply that percentage times the value of that property. So they are able to estimate. Remember, you have an appraisal. Well, almost everybody gets an appraisal that's getting a loan. So you have an appraisal, you know what that value is, you know what the county percentage, usually called a millage rate, they know what that rate is. They can easily calculate a better percentage. Now, let me tell you what happened to my clients. And let me go back a little bit. So when the estimate is wrong, because remember, you're paying your taxes and you're paying your insurance with your monthly payment. So when your payment becomes due, your mortgage company goes ahead and sends the payment to the county or the city. They send the tax payment and they send the payment directly from your escrow account, where that's holding the money. I have a whole video on escrow here. You can watch that next. They're holding the money for you. So when the bills become due, your tax bill and your homeowner's insurance bill, they pay it for you. But they do calculations every year to make sure they have enough money. So when they recalculate the value of your property and estimate your property taxes, they're going to send you a letter and say, hey, we only have $1,000 in this account, and your tax payment is going to be $4,000. So we need to recalculate this and take more money. So that's when you get a letter saying your mortgage payment is going to go from $2,000 a month to $3,000 a month, because we need to make sure when this payment becomes due that we have enough money to pay it for you. And so that's where this payment shock that they're talking about, it happens, and it makes it very unaffordable for first-time home buyers. You can't expect somebody to go from, okay, $2,000, and a lot of people are stretching at that $2,000 level, but they're going from that $2,000 to $3,000 in just a year. A lot of people, this could send a lot of people into foreclosure because they cannot afford it, or then they need to sell their house, and a lot of first-time home buyers, new construction, don't have enough equity in their home to sell it. I have a video on equity too. So you need to watch my equity video and my escrow video. But let me talk about my clients that this happened to. So I was representing clients with a DR Horton home. They got a loan estimate, and it was the estimate of the property taxes. They did use just the land. And I had to have a conversation with them before closing. And I said, you guys, this is not going to be correct. They're estimating your property taxes based on the land. So although it's lower right now, in a year, when the real property tax bill comes up, your payment is going to be significantly higher. Now, my clients at the time, they decided, even though they were aware, and I made them aware. I don't know if DR Horton would have made them aware, or I know at the time I made them aware. I even emailed the closing attorney to say this estimate seems really low. Is this the exact estimate? So we had this conversation. They decided to keep it that low number, at least for the first year. In their mind, they said, hey, at least I'll have lower payments this first year. And then they were aware that it was going to adjust. Now, if it was me, I'd pay the original amount from the very beginning, because not only when the payment changes are you going to have to pay back what they sent out if they go ahead and send the payment for you, but also for the next year they have to make sure it's accurate. So it's even larger than you anticipated. And I think they said they were going to put the money aside, but things happen, and not everybody does that. So I wanted you to be aware, as a first time home buyer, this is what happens sometimes. So when you're looking at that property tax, if it seems, and property taxes are public record. So if you are in a new construction community, you need to be asking, you're getting a loan estimate, you need to be asking, what is this property tax bill based on? You need to look at the county. How much are the property taxes? What is the millage rate? So you have a better idea if this amount that they're quoting you is accurate. And even for homeowners insurance, they do use an estimate, but your homeowners insurance your actual homeowners insurance may be higher than that. So get a quote as early as possible as to what your homeowners insurance will be, so then you're not stuck potentially losing your earnest money when you realize maybe you don't get to the point where you buy the house, but you get to a point where you're like, I can't really afford this house and I need to back out of the deal. If you have any questions, I do have a master class. Go ahead and get that. The link will be below. This can help you save thousands, because you're going into the home buying process very educated. And if you have any questions, please put it in the comments.